the government reform component of OGR's responsibility. In order to set the stage for this discussion, I want to explain why this subject is so important to me and why it should be important to Congress. Let's step back into Mr. Peabody's Wayback Machine and turn the dial to the 1970s. The 1970s were a time of major environmental and natural resource lawmaking. The EPA was created in 1970, the Clean Water Act was passed in 1972, the Endangered Species Act in 1973, and FLPMA, the Federal Land Policy Management Act, in 1976. Incidentally, I was in high school and college during those years and took classes in both range management and soil science in college. I also had some really bad hairdos, but we won't go there. All right, roughly 40 years have passed. Scientific knowledge has grown leaps and bounds. What was settled science back then is now very different. Global cooling science from the 1970s is now global warming science. We know only one thing for sure. Science is never settled. Range science is among the scientific disciplines that have evolved exponentially since I took a range management class in college over 40 years ago. We're going to hear about some of those practices today, those modern practices, which were neither contemplated nor accommodated in our 40-year natural resource management statutes. Rules and policies adopted recently in this decade are based on old laws and old science. Some of these rules implement practices that may accelerate desertification. There is a better way. For the sake of our range health, let's explore modern soil science and grassland health. Modern holistic practices can inform natural resource laws, rules, and practices. 99.9% of the Bureau of Land Management land in the U.S. is in 11 western states. It is mostly grassland, a huge carbon sequestration resource. We are grateful today for the testimony of witnesses who can attest to 21st century conservation practices that are restoring health to soils and grassland resources. I also want to thank Ranking Member Lawrence for this departure from normal hearing processes to view the following excerpt from a TED Talk delivered by Alan Savory, a global leader in regenerative land and resource management. Now, Mr. Savory would have been here today to testify, but he is with Prince Philip in England talking about these very same issues, so he was unable to attend. But would you please show us his TED Talk?